Here we are.
We're
And we're
here.
live. There we are. I can see you. You can see me.
It's true.
So I guess that's a good thing. What is that jangling sound?
I was just playing with my balls.
Oh.
Just
I
rubbing
shouldn't
my
ask.
balls together quickly to get the vibe right.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
So what's new?
Not a lot, really. I've been a big old degenerate for the most part, and that's about it.
Same. I have no job.
Yeah,
I don't do anything.
dude, we do more than we give ourselves credit for sometimes, but some days just don't feel like it.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
I think it is.
I don't know.
That's my story, and I'm
I
sticking
think
to
I
it.
do. I think I do a lot less than I give myself credit for. Because I don't really do fuck all really. I'm
You
retired.
woke up and you're here and you're doing that. You're living the retired life.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
That's
dude.
what I tell people anyways. Makes me feel better about myself.
There you go.
I don't have to. I don't have to. Here, watch it. That makes me feel better about myself.
Nice. That was perfect timing.
That was,
Oh, shit.
So, what are you working on?
Well, I got one thing going, and over the last time since we've done this, I haven't done really anything. I was in a big old rut, but the last couple of days I was trying to fuck around, and I still wasn't really doing anything.
Yeah.
But I was fucking around, and it was nice. And then last night, after like 5 hours of fucking around, something just happened. It was just like, boom.
Yeah.
And it just came together in like 2 hours. It was amazing. I haven't had one of those moments in so long, but yeah,
So
we'll take a peek out of here.
Yeah, let's see it here. Sick.
Super chill as always.
Yeah.
First drop's pretty much more the same thing.
Yeah.
And the second drop's not too anything different, but I just switched up the perk thing. But it was nice to kind of finally get something down and going, because I haven't done something in so long. It felt like, so I like to get the structure at least there down so I can look at it, and then when I hear it I can go, okay, we can switch the drums, we can do this, do the switch up, add this, so on and so on.
So when you're not feeling so successful when it comes to making stuff, what do? You just give up, walk out?
I did for more than I'd like to admit. I would just kind of get on, stare at, look at it, try something, and just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
But the last couple of days I was kind of just forcing myself to sit on it, play with samples, do it, this and that. I was like trying to recreate a little thing from a track or whatever, and I don't know where that came from, because I was going in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I just heard one sound and I was able to build off of that.
That's usually all it takes.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think just I got to be a little bit more consistent with the work in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then once you do
But
have the ball rolling, and it tends to get a little easier.
exactly, yeah, for sure.
That's what I
But I
find,
don't think I
anyways.
had the like. I didn't have the ball at all, so I was just like standing in the field waiting for a pass or something. But I wasn't like trying to get open, metaphoric.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so it was good to just kind of keep pushing myself to be like, okay, it doesn't have to be something, but as long as I'm fucking around,
Yeah.
then maybe something will come.
Well, I think what people need to realize is that there's different kinds of sessions that need to exist, and
Mhm.
they're not all production sessions, right? They're not all
Yeah, very true.
making a song sessions, and sometimes it's just doing the office work, and at least then you're not closing off Ableton with being like, fuck, I didn't do anything, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's one thing that I've been like trying to work on with my sessions is like, okay, there's different kinds. There's, for me, there's organization, like slash office work sessions where I'm organizing things like templates and racks and shit like that. And then there's sound design sessions, and then there's production sessions, or when I make a track. So they're, that way you're, whatever you're in the mood for that day is what you get, and then you're not closing out Ableton and be like, fuck, I didn't get anything done,
Yeah,
you know. And
yeah, for sure.
that way you stay motivated, and then sometimes you're like get motivated in weird ways to be like, yeah, I want to like spend 10 hours making my template better, or
Hmm.
whatever, right? Like, at least then you're feeling motivated by the end of it, and you're feeling successful by the end of it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Another thing I kind of dabbled in that I don't do a lot of. I'm more of a person that gets a track and then just puts all of it into it until it's done.
Yeah.
And last week I just started making little loops, and I make a project with like 8 16 bar loop that maybe drums and a little sound design. And if I got stuck, just tossed it to the window and
Mm.
then go on to the next product, and made a couple. So when I wasn't feeling that vibe, I could try to go to the next one, and maybe the vibe kind of would pick up from there. And that's what
Yeah.
kind of happened with that one track. I was like bounce and bounce, and then boom, it just kind of happened.
And can I make it here? What I would do too, if I were you, to make it, just to make us an idea here, like, if you got caught somewhere, and where you're stuck, right? Is just like take the information that's there and put it into a rack somehow. So like, you're using, what are you using, like Serum and shit, or what are you using for your
Yeah,
sound, your
serum.
bass sound? So then like so what I do is like, let's say we have plugins, we'll go to Serum, right? And what I would do at that point is take this and save it, right? Save it as a preset, but then also just like group this and take the things that you were using out of there, and map it. So I'll just use an example here. Let's say if we go see, because I do this all the time, right? Um, so here's a base. This is like a build up thing that I made in just a track I was working on just now. And I ended up not liking it for the track, but I thought this would be cool for something else. So I just took it and I went like this, and like, let's say, I don't know if this is gonna blow everyone's head off, so let's try this down. So I have that, and then what I did is I went to configure, and just like the things that I used, I configured in here, and just threw it on a macro. So that in the future, I can just come out and just like bring this in and use it anytime I want, right? Like, oh, show you how this thing works. Like that. So the cool thing about that is that you could always just come in here and like whenever, so you wanted to throw auto filter in there, and then just do the frequency. Then you can throw devices in there, and now you have this cool little instrument that you can use for later. And you can minimize the buttons, and then that's all you need right there.
Yeah. Yeah, speeds up the workflow for sure.
So then whenever you, let's say you like scrap that project, but you're like, fuck, I put in all this work onto that bass sound and put all this work into the drums or whatever, then throw the drums into a drum kit and save it for later,
Yeah.
and then start defining your sound. Like one thing I kind of have been like playing with on like a psychological or like kind of a like how I want to run things in my Ableton sessions is like part of having your sound is creating a library that's easy to access to pull up devices that you've used for your sound. So one thing I did is I don't know, a lot of people I didn't know this did anything, but up here in the top left corner you have these different color codes. So I can go in here and I can go samples, and this will take me to all of my samples that I've made, right?
Crazy.
And then I can go to tools, and I can go to Max for Live devices, either that I've made or downloaded. I can go to instruments that I've made. I go to effects that I've made, effects instruments that I've made. So like here's a noise generator that I made. So they're all right there. And then my samples that I've made, Max for Live devices on their own. So, and then sample packs, right? So I can kind of color code these things, and the top things that I use are up here in the top left. And
yeah, I had no idea that's a thing.
Because the user library, thank God Ableton had created the user library, but it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's a mess.
When you're trying to go in there and you're like, okay, here's my user library, and you're like, I want to use a preset of an instrument rack, and then if you've got subfolders in there, it takes even longer to try and get in there. So it's like it's not the most intuitive thing in the world, but when you have like a shortcut to it here, it makes life a whole hell of a lot easier, than trying to fucking dig through all that shit.
Yeah, it speeds up the workflow 10 times, and that's the big part, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm glad it's awesome that they put that there. I'm surprised that more people don't talk about that.
Yeah, honestly, I've never really paid attention to it at all.
I don't think anyone has. Like it's wild. Like it's kind of crazy, man. Like so I've just been kind of playing around with that and like getting my shit figured out for that. So like for example, I'm gonna take this off of there because it has its own section, right? So there's my Max for Live devices. These are all the Max for Live devices that I use, so like Duck Buddies on there and stuff like that. And then creating a new channel, like a default channel, is a really good idea too. So like my default channel doesn't have much on it other than this NTPD, which I always suggest people download. This is the coolest Max for Live device I've ever seen. It literally is just notes for that channel. This sucks.
What is it called?
NTPD notepad.
Okay.
The other one that I really, really like is this one, and I put on a return, is a freesound.org downloader. So if you have freesound.org, if you use freesound.org, like you'd be like, I don't know, let's go whenever I download like stupid things, I like laugh. Okay, so I can go laugh. Search that for me. And I can go through here and like find ones. I don't know why it's not playing right now, but and you can just download it right from freesound.org, which is really fucking cool. Oh, it's probably because I have
it on that's hype.
Yeah, so you can you can download shit and it'll just automatically download to your file within Ableton too.
Sheesh.
Yeah, because I'm a strong believer in like I don't like paying for things that are easy to build myself.
Yeah.
Like, you know how many packs I've bought where I'm like, oh, I got this noise upper, you know, when it's so fucking easy to make your own noise generator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we
Half
do
that
Should
shit
we do
never
one?
gets
Let's make a
used, right?
noise generator. Do you want to do one?
Let's
Have
do
you
it.
built one? Okay.
Nah.
So this is how you build a noise generator.
I mean, like operator, something in white noise, and then filter.
Yeah.
But
so
I
you
mean,
go operator, noise, white, and you go like this. What can shoot? Because I don't like the fact that most like I like to have lots of build up. Like 8 bars is not enough. I want like 16 bars when I do my noise ups. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we have such epic intros and builds.
Yeah,
that you need that to build the tension.
why am I going to have like 8 bars? It just seems ridiculous. So one thing that what I like to do is I do I pretty much, this is how I make all mine is I'll go auto filter, and then I macro the frequency and this LFO amount and rate to start, right? So then let me just mute that, solve that. So then you can go like this. And then I'll usually like to go like this. But one thing I found is like if you add a reverb, the hybrid reverb specifically, and you have that set to 100 and then the size cranked up and the decay cranked up, you can also get a really fucking cool sound. So check it out.
That's epic.
Right? Sounds
Yeah,
fucking
that's sick.
wicked.
And the hybrid reverb is the one that you can just load whatever sample into it, right?
Yeah, you can. It's kind of like a convolution reverb, I guess, in that way. And then if you're gonna do that, you might as well have the stereo width as well. And what I do with the stereo width is I'll map this gain also to the stereo width. So I'll bring this to 0, and then I'll also go stereo width. So then if you go map here, you can take this gain and bring it down for 1. We don't want it to go like that. We want it to actually come down as you bring the stereo width up, because with the stereo width, it gets louder for whatever reason. So let's just make this, we'll make this 0. And then as you bring it up, see how it turns that knob down a bit?
Yeah.
On the stereo width, or the width here and the gain there on that utility.
Crazy.
So that it doesn't fuck with your gain too much. Then another thing that I like to add on my white noise is actually, oddly enough, a phaser flanger, because that also adds some cool shit to it. So let's go like this. I'm gonna add this, or like that, and then it also, so like as the width comes in, it's gonna like be more in the focus in the center, right? So I'll do that as well, and I'll map that to, let's map that to macro 6. Macro 7. There you go. Like that's pretty.
Yeah, that's some
That works
movement
hard
for
on-
you, boy.
That's got some movement for you. Yeah. So like, but what a lot of people don't realize too is that you can we can rack racks. And I think racking racks is the best fucking thing you can do. Like it's mind boggling the shit that you can do when you rack a rack.
Racks on racks.
Racks on racks. And that's what I've been doing with trying to kind of like do instruments and shit that I've created is just if you rack a rack, you can add to the usability of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, I've got this rack here, for example, and it's got like 4 128s built into it. So it plays like 500 different samples, but I've got it all down to one knob. So, you know, when you open this up, it starts to like look ridiculous, but it really is when you're setting shit for randomness, it works really, really well. So like now I can go in here and just play, you know, if I want to play in D sharp, for example. So I'll just play samples in random at randomness whenever I want. But having that one knob just for happy accidents is the way to go, man. Like that's how I produce.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing right there.
Yeah. So you could take, you know, developing your sound is easier when you have a fucking easy to get to library of sounds or of devices that you've made, right? Without having to dig through a bunch of shit and get set up again every single time, you know?
True.
You know, it's because it can be a fucking pain in the ass, man.
Yeah, well, it gives you a starting point if you don't have one in that case too, right? You can be like, okay, well, let's throw this rack on, see what comes from it, and go from there. If you have no idea what to do in this session.
Or you're not getting the same sound over and over again, right? You're getting different sounds, and then what I want to do is start creating little modules for each, like for different sound effects, like that are just easier to throw up than throwing on the chorus, right? Like, do you ever use the chorus? The chorus is fucking sick in Ableton.
Yeah,
and
it is.
You know, you can get like a fucking hero bust fucking bass sound in like 2 seconds if you set it up properly.
Yeah, it's good to get that metallic metal sounds.
Oh, did I lose you?
Leaving room for randomness and
yeah.
But I guess for certain genres that doesn't work. Like, I mean, for you don't want a myriad of different bass sounds because you're using very similar bass sounds, are you not? Like, there's not like a
more or
huge
less
collection.
a lot of times. Yeah, like it's more at least for me, it's like an atmospheric thing, right? Like I'm just trying to create a mood or a vibe in the back, and the big focus is the drums and just like a heavy sub, but having those unique sounds in the back floating around and filling up the space is where it's nice.
So when you create a bass sound, what do you use? Serum?
Yeah, I'm using Serum.
And then what do you go from there? Like, are you just using a sine wave and adding distortion, or like, I guess distortion is probably a big thing for you, right?
For sure, yeah.
Because that distortion is going to add that different flavor that you're going to hear on the high end more.
Yeah, giving it some more harmonics.
Yeah.
Making it easier to hear on different systems.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was explaining to my roommate, like that there's what's the word, material or something like that. The chatbot used it, and I was like, she's like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm like, well, it's like if you look at a sine wave, there's artifacts. That's what it was. You want to generate artifacts, and she's like, well, what are artifacts? And I was like, well, I'll try to explain it to you. And I was like, the way that it works is that if you have a sine wave playing a low tone, there's no artifacts to it. It's just a low end tone.
Singular. It's just one.
Yeah. I'm like, it goes like this, right? There's your sine wave, right? And then I'm like, once you start adding distortion, it's like it's not just doing a sine wave thing. It's got all these artifacts, and that artifacts is what creates texture to that sound. And I was trying to explain to her how deep dubstep works and stuff, but it's a little. I think she, blanks out after a while.
It gets a little tricky.
Well, she's
a great way to see it or learn about it is that there's the Dr. Bill video. You showed me it or whatever, and he breaks it down with Mr. Bill. Yeah. With the
he's pretty much got a doctorate at this point.
Yeah, he's
oscilloscope. Yeah, okay. Yep.
And then it's showing that like having a good punchy sub is like sound over time. So that's like having more width to this sin wave or whatever, right? Finding your way to give it more and giving it more harmonics.
Yeah, for sure. And like you'd be surprised what you can get from a sine wave. Like let's just show this again. So like create a MIDI channel, and I'm going to use Serum because that's what you said. That's what you said to use, and I'm quoting you on that.
Yeah, you can quote me.
So go to plugins, and we'll go to Serum, right? So are you using the sub here, or are you creating it through an oscillator?
Oscillator.
Yeah, you got more control that way, I guess, eh?
Yeah, that's
so much with that sub sound, I guess.
That's more or less why I use it, so I can just modulate like the LFO or whatever, or can you shape it a little bit how I want.
Did you know that C, because C is the root, you can actually get more bass out of C than any other tone, any other note?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, somebody told me that one time.
That's good to know.
People are not going to be able to hear this at home, I'm sure, depending on what they're listening on. I can barely hear it right now. It's -2. That's probably why. So
nobody's hearing that.
Yeah. Can you hear that? My dog was hearing that. You can hear that, I'm sure, maybe a little bit, right? And then do you add a second oscillator, or are you just like, nah?
Sometimes I will.
Okay. So are there any effects within? So that's another way that you could get, I guess, what was the word I was using before now? Artifacts in there is adding a second oscillator, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I'll even FM it.
Because really, when you hear that, your brain, I was telling her, when you hear this part, is that your brain's almost tricking you into thinking that you're hearing the sub frequencies, and you're not. What you're hearing is something that's supposed to help replicate it. And I don't think, when you're listening on little speakers, you're not hearing that low end. What you're hearing is that
not at all
distortion on it. And that's what really makes it so that you can understand it on other speakers, but nothing will beat that low end frequency, right? Like I got my
you feel that if you have a system or you're at a show with big speakers, like you're feeling the low end.
So what would be some ways to modulate this? Would you modulate this from the filter within Serum here?
Yep.
Like one of these bad boys. Throw chuck one of these guys on there.
Yeah, I can't see what you got going on, but I would go in in Serum.
Oh, you can't see my Serum?
No.
Oh, I just noticed that. That's fucked up. I don't know.
But I would just make an LFO, and I would put it on the level of the first oscillator.
Yeah. And then on the level.
Yeah, on the level.
I didn't realize that. There's gotta be a way I can share that. Like what's going on there, let me just see something here real quick on entire screen. Let's see if I go here and I go share. Now I got
unnecessary-roughness joined.
There we go. Hey, so so in future, you got you got to do entire screen, not window. So now we've got the see, I had that on the cutoff.
Yep,
that works.
You're saying you might put it on the level of the first oscillator too,
That's
or in
right.
general.
I do both.
That's kind of cool. I like that idea. But you'd want to do that for both oscillators, right?
That's right. That way you can control the modulation more than anything.
Yeah. Yes. Just like lower this guy. Do you detune your fucking? I always detune my sine wave, my saw waves and shit.
Yeah, a little bit, and then just pull back the detune. Gets a
Yeah,
little crazy
totally.
on the stereo field if it's like super
Yeah,
wide.
it's too much. It's ugly. But that's a cool way to add some of that, texture in there.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's pretty cool. So then you could easily just chuck that out on there. And now you got yourself a little instrument, right? So how do you when you want to like really mix down, do you mix down your sine wave stuff, or what do you do to it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, once I'm done in Serum, I'm doing the post processing in Ableton
yeah,
with
obviously.
the effects there.
So and what's some effects that you would say are, like let's say we just had our pure sine wave here. What would be some effects you would use to beef that up?
Distortion, compression, saturation,
Yeah.
and then I really like to mess with trash too.
Yeah.
Get some crazy weird things in there.
Awesome. So like probably the best distortion unit I think out there.
I just got Camel Crush back.
Oh,
so I was
nice.
fucking with that last night. I haven't seen that
Yeah.
thing in so long. It was
Where'd you get
crazy.
that?
And
You got that off a quote unquote illegal source?
I would never do that. I would never do that.
It's okay. They're out of business because people torrented their shit.
Yeah, I found a YouTube video. I'll send it to you later.
Well,
but it's like
because they got bought
kind
out.
of redone too.
They got bought out by Apple. They were going under,
crazy.
and Apple bought them out. So if you have Logic, apparently you can get Camel Crush built in.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So, okay, let's take the sine wave and let's beef it out a little bit. So for me personally, what I would do is like, see, because I like to resample. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think resampling is the bomb. I'm trying to think of ways that if resampling applies to everybody, and it might not. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
Let's just open this up again here. So we have this. Let's open the level up. Now we got nice beef, some nice beef in there.
Maybe even go in the effects a little bit.
Yeah, the built-in effects.
Yeah, the built-in effects, and then like do the distortion. You can find a nice distortion, and you can even put the LFO on the drive so it helps beef it up when it moves.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
And then sometimes,
sick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Because we're staying in the effects here.
The filter knob has some fun ones. If you go to the bottom filter, in effects.
Oh, okay.
You can do another.
Oh, yeah. I see it. Yeah.
And then do like something weird, like a reverb or a comb filter or something. I don't know. I kind of just fuck around with whatever. But
actually, I really like comb
miscellaneous.
I just saw them. Where'd they go?
I think it's miscellaneous.
There it is.
Oh,
There's
there you
force flangers, low ring mod. Ooh.
It's like kind of the same thing. You can even make another LFO that's doing like half the rate, or use the same one and modulate that too. I mean, a lot of deep dub is just kind of basic stuff, right? But just adding its tonalities to it.
It is, and it isn't. I mean, it's maybe basic to some, but people have a hard time, I think, sometimes understanding the finer nuances of how that works. Like, okay, so Okay, cool. So that's pretty cool, actually. So then let's maybe add a compressor on there or something.
You can multi-band it and just
That's fucking sick. See, because I don't do a lot of like just sine subs unless I'm doing like a subwoofer like an 808.
okay.
You know, I don't do a lot of just like, but I started doing like for buildups, I'll add a sine wave in the buildup. So like I'll have like a noise and then a riser and then a sine wave that's low and just plays like a single tone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then that'll like beef up the whole riser because you have this low end that's also rising with the rest of it that really fills out the rest of the spectrum, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah, you're kind of feeling it in that low
Yeah.
end there.
Because when you have like this, the noise is going to handle the high stuff, the riser is going to handle the mids and the low mids, and then you have a sine wave, and that sine wave, all that does is just play. Here, I'll show you. So we'll just go here, and we're pretty much there already, anyways. But I'll just go. Let's just take these effects off it, or what's going to fucking change it? I'll just take these off for now, and then we'll take the remove all modulators, remove all modulators, remove all modulators. Turn that off. So then what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll go 24, the pitch bend.
And then just bend it from 24 down up.
Yeah, from where it's at to up 24. Usually we'll do it. And you get at least some of that feeling from the low end, right? So what I'm trying to work on now is like a whole riser, noise builder, sub riser instrument that'll do all three at once.
Sheesh.
Only one MIDI note. That's the part I'm having troubles with. Is having the one MIDI note. So you could just have one, C sharp 2, and it'll just play all three of those instruments for you at one time.
Could you have like a serum on 3 different chains in one group?
Absolutely. Fuck yeah, you could. Here, I'll show you how to do that right now. So let's say you go, well, let's just start from scratch here. I'm just going to delete this serum and we'll bring in a new one just to start from scratch. So if anyone is actually ever watching these, they can check it out. So let's go serum. Okay. And then we're going to group this one. And then if you click this here, this will show you your chain. Okay. So if you just duplicate that chain as you want within this chain. So there you got 2 serums. And then let's say we want a operator. I like to use the operator for noise. So then you can go here, sine, white noise. So now we have all 3, right? We have serum, operator. So let's do one as let's riser.
Is the serum working for both those chains, or is it 2 separate serums?
2 separate serums. So I'll show you that in a second here.
Okay.
And let's just go like this. We'll call this one noise, right? We've got one controlling each one. So we'll do the load first. And what we'll do is we'll go, let's just open that. It'll be our low end right here, right? And then what we can do is we'll actually do the same thing. I can set that to 24. And then when we go configure, we'll hit that to the pitch, and we can send that to macro 1. And then this will be our riser one, which I have like a bunch of waveforms that I use. I do for this one is I'll do the wavetable. Am I not hearing the right one? Shit. I think I fucked that one up. Wait, hold on. Yeah, I did. So hold on.
Yeah, the bottom one was the
shit.
operator, I think, right?
So this is where it gets confusing. Is that like you can totally fuck it up that way. That's why I like to try and label things, but I always forget. So let me just go back. I'm gonna put plugins, and I'm gonna add serum back in there because I already fucked that one up. So this is my low end, right? And then we're gonna go 24. And then we want to assign this. So when we go into configure this guy. Okay, so now we can go like this, right? We're going to assign this to macro 1. Okay, so then we can close that serum. I'm going to close both these serums. Then go to the riser one and go here, and we're going to open this up. There we go. So now I have my riser one. Let's just double check that. Yeah, so then I'll take this and add that. So then you can configure that again. So with those ones, what I like to do is I go 24 plus, minus 24, that one. So that way it's like you can go from low to high. We'll configure that pitch bend and we'll assign that to macro 2. And then on this one, we're gonna have noise, right? White noise. And there's our white noise. Right. So now we have a device that plays all three.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So now it gets messy, right? So we could say maybe for the riser, we definitely want to have an auto pan on there and shit like. But that's where again it gets fucking messy, right?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But so one way that I do like to use the multi-racks like that is like, let's say you do have like a sound that you are using. Let's try this actually. Let's go to the user library. I'm going to chuck this instrument rack, this guy on there. Okay. And we'll just go like this. So you have like an effect plugin that you really, really like. And this is one that pissed me off a lot. So like you could go into, we'll use minimal, we'll use Rift. So Rift is a sick distortion unit. Can you see that? No. Oh yeah, you can. Okay. So let's say you have all these different presets of ones that you've made and you want to cycle through them, right? Well, you gotta, to do that, you'd have to originally do resampling, right? Have another channel and do resampling. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I wanted to record the different presets cycling through them, that's what I'd have to do.
Yep.
But instead, what I do is I go and I group this, and I go in here onto the chain, and I'm gonna duplicate this, let's say 5 times. So now we have 5 different riffs that are gonna go through here. So on the first one, we'll do that preset. On the second one, we'll do this preset. On the third one, we'll do let's do this dot preset. And then on this one, we're going to do this preset, right? So I can close all these out. And now if you click chain, and you go like this, you go all the way across. You go distribute ranges equally, and you map this to macro 1. So now you can go through here and select which rift
Oh my
it
God.
is that you want it to play. So isn't that fucking cool?
That's fucking wild, dude.
So here's another cool thing about that. Let's just delete these ones here, and go. Let's say you have your first rift, and you go, and you come in here, and you go. There's certain things that you want to automate, right? So let's say you want to automate this macro here, and you mapped out to macro 2, and then we'll just do these 2 macros, right? And you go macro 3. So now the cool thing is that when you duplicate this rift and you just change it to a different preset, for example, and then we'll duplicate another one, and we'll go, like that one, right? When you go like this, and you go distribute ranges equally, no matter what one you're on, it'll always adjust these macro knobs that you set up on every single one. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So now
Yeah,
you
that's
have
pretty crazy.
control over all 3 of them, or whatever ones that you're using, and then you can just, again, you can close this up, and there's your device, right? So you have now this device that
Boggles my mind.
and you can do that as many times as your computer can handle, really. Like you can do all sorts of shit with that. So like you can have, this really like takes that annoying part of trying to get, a bunch of different rift presets on one thing and not having to sit there and record each one. Like you can just, then what I usually do is I'll go to modulators, and I'll take LFO, and I'll go map it to the chain selector. And if you go here, you can go random. And now every 1.5, it'll change it for you. So now you got this sick distortion unit that's like multiple distortions whenever you want them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
pretty
good.
crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty fun for
like
sample
that.
making. Like that's pretty much all I do is like do that, and then make, record the or I'll just freeze and flatten it, and then I go through it and I pick the shit I like and don't like, and
Chop it up,
make sample packs out of that, right? Like my sample packs are getting retarded, man. Like I have in my leads, for example, I have to, like, let's say I think in D, I think I'm at
Holy
700, and I think in F I have 1,000 maybe. I work in that a lot at 932. And that's how I do that.
Yeah,
It
that's
makes, like,
sick.
a lot
I'm
of
gonna
sense.
try to figure out more of a process, because honestly, like mine is more right now, at least when I'm making it, it's just more about trying to get a vibe or an element. But I need to break down something like
Well,
that.
you could do something too, like with your drums. Like your drums are probably the most important part, right? And you could do that as well with your drums. So like, let's say you have a bunch of kicks, right? That you're like top favorite kicks. So then you would just go instrument. You could go instrument, and then you could use a drum rack, but I would actually use a sampler. And then go back to where was there? Kicks. Put that in there. And then just group that. And then go to your chain. And then you could have as many kicks as you want. And this you could have 128. It allows you to have 128 of those, right? And then you just go chain, you string one, you got to just string one all the way across, and then go distribute ranges equally. And it'll get each one, and then you just make sure this chain selector you set to a macro, and you can just go through these and, you know, have all these different kicks that you go through. And then you can, you know, when you're making a track, if you want to have multiple kicks or you want to have, you know, one kick, it doesn't matter. You can use this through your instrument that you've created.
Yeah,
right?
I get what you're saying. Building drum racks like that or whatever, even.
Well, and the thing about drum racks is drum racks get way more intense than people even realize, man. Is that like if you go to drums, you go drum rack, right? Within the drum rack, you have all of these different other settings that people don't even realize are there right here, right? So let's say you have a bunch of kicks, well, or snares. Let's do snares, for example. That's a better example. Or that's not how you spell snares. Oh, snares, right? Right. And then you could go in here and we'll just plop them in, right? So you can also add audio effects right here. So, you know, with something with snares, you know you're going to want fucking reverb, right? So you can put a hybrid reverb in there. And now you've got reverb in there and ascend right here to send that to reverb.
You just got to solo the channel.
Yeah. So, well, whatever it is. Oh, I got something else. So that's why. Here we go. And then you're like, well, that doesn't sound good dry. So let's add some reverb to that, right?
Mm-hmm. I've never knew that was there at all.
Yeah. So then you have your own effect return within the drum rack.
Yeah, that's wild too.
And then that way you don't have to, because I know a lot of people don't actually use returns, but that's a big thing in like analog recording studios is returns. And so you could have different ones, you know, like, you know, if you have a bunch of like, you know, bongo sounds and shit in there and you want to have a different amount of reverb in there, you can.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
So then you can have it go do the return and it'll still, you know, do that. So if you have a bunch of your perks that you like, these are my perks that I love to use in every track, chuck them in a rack like that and add the reverb there or whatever you might, delay, reverb, whatever. Usually returns are good for like timed things, timed effects. You could easily just add them into your rack, you know, and then again, let's say you can go in there and add that to a macro. So you can have macros in drum racks people don't realize.
That's fucking crazy, dude. That shit's wild.
Yeah, so you can and then you know, if you wanted to make that more, you could send this to a macro too, right? So look at that. So there's your send to the macro, and then you could do that for each one or whatever. But that'll and you can have multiple you can have multiple effects in there too. So you don't have to just have one reverb or whatever. You could have 10 different reverbs that you like in there. And now you have this whole instrument for snares or percussions that you've got in your tracks that you use, and you can just easily add reverb to them.
Yeah, that's super sick, man. You always blow my mind with new information every time. I love it.
That's what I'm here for, I guess. But like that, I've learned a lot about racks and stuff. Like, you know,
I had to drop one out.
Was that you? Nice. I was like, where did that come from? That's stupid. I love it. Anyway, so that's what I think is important about discovering your own sound is building these instruments. And that's where Ableton for me is better than any other DAW, is that you can build these racks and extend Ableton to a degree that you can't with other DAWs.
Yeah.
And then if you
way more custom,
when you start looking at the Max for Live, it's even more so, right? Like Max for Live is retarded, and I as a programmer hate it because it's so annoying and frustrating. But it's it is pretty cool. So that's it. Can I show you some music that I'm working on?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's take us away.
So this is the opera that I'm working on. You've heard the first drop already, right? So
Well, I mean,
I want to show you. I don't want to show you the whole thing because we're at 10 minutes here. So
Fall through the darkness.
operatic neuro. It's operatic neuro. It's pretty.
I like it. I like it.
Here's another drop for you.
I invented it.
Here's another drop for your ass.
Give it to me.
You hear that sub bass in there is starting to come up now?
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck me up, bass daddy.
Yeah.
Another epic journey, as always.
Yeah. Anyways,
I like it.
I think that's pretty good for today. You got anything else you want to talk about for today? I think that's pretty good. So we're going to be doing this more.
I keep getting cutting out here, I think.
I think.
Hello? Oh, I'm back. It's
in there. It's like,
yeah, perfect time. All I got is we're gonna try to do this more, but yeah, we're definitely.
So once a week, I think, maybe every Sunday, at least an hour every Sunday, and then maybe in the next couple of times we'll try and have some pre-made ideas for it. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
think that, maybe just a couple things to talk about here and there and stuff. And
I think
people
you
have
set
questions.
up the Twitch for base therapy too, so we can do like solo streams or whatever on there. We can link that.
Yep, solo streams, everything we want. Like, I think, like, I want to start doing like some sound design ones where I'll just sit here and make fucking sounds. And if you want to come check,
I
it
love
out,
watching you. It's just like a learning thing every time. I love it. It just reminds me of the times in the garage, just like
blowing my mind for the first time. I'm just like, holy shit, man.
Well, I can't wait for you to come out to visit, because we'll have
sir.
some one-on-one time to do that in the studio kind of thing, and like just fuck around like we used to back in the day. And I think that'll be good for both of us. So
that's right.
All right, bruvs. Well, it's good seeing you. Thank you for whoever tuned in. If anyone did tune in, I have no idea. If not, hopefully next time we'll get them.
See you on the next one.
So be flop. Peace out, bro.